Hello ladies and gentlemen, this is Blue Maxima and I'm here checking out Cosmophony. What a weird name for a game. It's just, I'm reminded of Family Guy. You're a great fat phony, or whatever the bloody hell it was. Great. So, I made a little bit of a pact to myself recently that I would stop trying to swear as much on all my videos. I picked a really good game to start this with. So, let's just have a look at, say, level 2 first. There's 5 levels in the game, oddly enough. The game's actually quite short. I've only been playing this for about, let's see, 59 minutes, and I stopped playing 10 minutes ago to set up my recording, so yeah, 50 minutes. 50 minutes, and I'm already at the 3rd level out of 5. That's just it just seems a bit short. But let's go and hop into the practice mode before we go hop into the normal mode, and we can see what this game's like. So here's the idea. You are apparently some sort of cosmos hunting, firefly, weird looking thing. And the idea is you have to weave in and out of these blocks to get to this god-eating firefly or something. And you have to shoot things along the way for no discernible reason other than they're there, shoot them. Which is quite a strange plot, but and it really doesn't make any sense in any logical perspective, but whatever, we'll roll with it. These sorts of musical games don't really need that much of a plot to actually go anywhere, but yeah. So, this is the game. It is flying down a tunnel with several different lanes that you swap between with the D-pad, and you shoot at things with the X button. There is no penalty to firing at anything, so you might as well just be pressing that SOB constantly, because there's not really that much else you can do. The practice mode is a bit different from the normal mode, because at any time you are capable of pressing a button, and it will pop you back to either the previous or the next checkpoint, which are on the shoulder buttons. So, you use this to practice going through the levels, and learning the patterns of the levels, and making sure you get things right, because every level is a series of patterns that are repeated 2 or 3 times, so it really is just learning what happens at what specific place, and just learning to avoid it. In the practice mode, you're always put back at the previous checkpoint that you failed at. But if you're looking at a really hard segment of a level, it's probably a good idea to play like those 2 segments back to back so that you can actually practice getting through both of them. Although it doesn't really help with some of the sections where the game starts moving really, really fast after you've been through like a bunch of other patterns and you just can't readjust your brain in time, because you might be able to do a pattern perfectly in practice, but when you get around to actually doing it after a bunch of other patterns, your brain just fries and you just, I can't do it, I feel so dumb, even though it's just the game mentally exhausting you. It's absolutely, I wouldn't call it traumatizing, but it's insanely difficult at times to get around all these patterns without your finger going, that's it, I'm done, and just your thumb just going, there. You can move using either the left stick or the D-pad or the right stick for some reason. I don't know why that's a thing, but you can do that if you like. So that was a look at practice mode. Now, to explain how the progression works, I'll have to go into normal mode first, when the game decides it wants to load. So not only does the background change when you come out of practice mode, it also means that you're put back at 0% every time you die. So in order to actually progress through the game, you have to finish every level 100%, and by 100% I mean progression, not shooting all the enemies. You can avoid shooting all the enemies if you want to, but yeah, you're still going to have to finish the level completely anyway, so you might as well hammer that X button and try and get all the enemies, which are just, weirdly enough, triangles floating in the middle of space. What did they ever do to you? But yeah. So the idea is that you have to get to the end. You have to do it all in one shot, you can't fail once, and the game is an absolute bastard for this, because some of these patterns just blow my freaking mind. Like, this is level 2, it's not too bad, right? I finished this level in about 15 minutes after going through it in the training mode, which is not that bad. The next level, I spent about 20 minutes banging my head against the wall just trying to get that damn level done, and I could not pull it off. Because the game is just a massive dick like that. I did not mean to do that. I lost attention for a quarter of a second, and I'm like, oh god, I have to do something, don't I? Yeah, this game requires that you stay at attention at pretty much all times. Sure, it is easy to memorize the patterns, but the main problem with it is the same problem I have with a game like Dark Souls. Sure, you can avoid their attacks once or twice. And by there, I mean the blocks in this case, not the gigantic enemies that have come from another dimension or something like Dark Souls or Bloodborne. But you can avoid their attacks once or twice, but when they do multiple patterns in a row and you've had to already avoid multiple patterns, it gets so infuriatingly hard because your brain's like, no, don't want to do this anymore. And your ship's apparently got a fatter ass than you give it credit for because... God damn it, most of my deaths in this game have been running into blocks by accidentally turning into them too early. Like, look at the way these blocks are displayed on the screen. It's almost infuriating because the way the beat works to the music in the background, it makes them look wider than they actually are. It's, well, not wider, deeper, I guess the word would be, deeper into the background. But yeah, either way, it's just a massive pain. The colourful backgrounds don't really help that much either. I mean, you saw in the practice mode that white background, that's consistent across all the stages. But as soon as you load into normal mode, you've got this hugely distracting background with no options to turn down. This game has no options at all, so you can't turn down any particular option. You can't turn down any of the sounds. You can't turn down the brightness of the background. It's just there to distract you. I mean, sure, the colours do contrast a fair bit, but it can still be enough to screw you over. Whoops. It can still be enough to screw you over. Purely from your eyes getting too distracted with the big, shiny background. It's annoying. It's really annoying. I really wish you could turn the background brightness down. I'm reminded a lot of Super Hexagon when I played this game, and at least that game... At least the colours were contrasting so well with each other that the colours in the background never got in the way. It was always just one solid colour. Here you've got multiple colours working in tandem with each other to screw you over repeatedly. And it can be so frustrating. I'll swap to level 3 after 1 or 2 more deaths, just so I don't have to spend too long staring at the same background, because seriously, that red drip and those goldfish really annoy the hell out of me. You might have also noticed the music in the background, which is some sort of electronic from some sort of DJ that I've never heard of. I mean, obviously I haven't. I'm not that big of a fan of electronic music or something like that. And this game is pretty much one of the reasons why I don't like it, because if you listen to it long enough, everything just starts sounding like farts. It's like South Park. It literally sounds like shit. Once you've played a level... constantly for 20 minutes, it just sounds like farts. It just feels like the designers of the game are laughing at you and just farting in your face because of how this bloody music works. It's just constantly in your ears, and it's just like, grr. And you actually need the music because it can actually help you with some of the patterns and learning some of the timing on the patterns. It's bugging me sideways. It can help you learn some of the timings and some of the patterns. I'll swap to level 3 now, just for a little bit of consistency. I have not been able to get past 50% on level 3, and you'll see why. It's just, the game feels like it's constantly laughing at you, which is a real pain in the ass, I have to say. Like, in some levels you have really easy patterns like this, and then, well, we'll see when we get to about 40-50%, because you can see your progress constantly up in the top right there, so it's just kind of annoying, because you can constantly see exactly how far you've gotten, and it makes you want to choke a bitch, because you've been stuck on 40% for God knows how long. And practice just really doesn't help, because it just, again, you just have to be constantly avoiding all these things, and then you have a pattern in your head, and then you do another pattern, and then you do yet another pattern, and then this other pattern gets stuck. Yeah, boom! Massive speed up out of bloody nowhere, and it just... This gets me every single time, and that pattern repeats 4 times. It's so frustrating. I don't know who thought this was a good idea, but yeah. I mean, you might be able to blame it on me playing this, like, at 4 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning before the sun's even come up. The sun hasn't even come up yet in the middle of recording this video, but I feel wide bloody awake, even if I sound like I'm tired. It's just a massive pain in the ass. And the game even laughs at you for it, because it's like, die enough times and it'll say something like, blah, 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 but I can change you. I can't remember the exact message, but those were the last words, but I can change you. And it's like, oh, maybe they'll let me skip the level. So I select yes on that silly prompt, and it literally just throws me back into the training mode, which I've already completed. It's like, god damn it, guys. I guess I can understand why it's so difficult. I mean, the game would only last an hour if you were... Bugging me so much. The game would only last an hour if you were playing it and it was easy enough to get through everything on the first couple of tries, but... Man, it's so difficult. It's so difficult. You just go into this slow pattern of... You slowly start getting better and better and better, and then it feels like you're at the top of your game, and then you get stuck on this one area over and over again, and then you get really frustrated, and you start getting worse and worse. You start backing into blocks you've never thought possible to touch, and it just gets more and more frustrating as time goes on. You just get worse and worse and worse and worse, and it makes me want to strangle somebody. One other thing I've noticed about this game is that, strangely enough, other than the 2 modes that I've showed you, there's really nothing else. And there's no leaderboards, there's no hard mode, there's no survival, no challenge, no nothing. Well, there is obviously challenge, but there's no like separate challenge mode that does something different from the main game. So there's barely anything here. It's just a bit strange. I mean, like, I'd expect there to be at least a procedurally generated mode that'd help me train my reflexes a little, but it's just a bit strange that there isn't. I mean, you could easily just take patterns from the basic levels and be like, yeah, how many of these patterns can you survive for? And it's like, yeah, that's basically all I can get up to before my brain's like, no, shut down, you're done. It's just, yeah, there's no replacement for any of the content. Like, there's no procedural mode, there's no high score mode, no survival mode, no nothing. It's weird. It's really weird. It's like, they could add a few extra modes if they wanted to, but they just chose not to? Maybe it's because they didn't have the music for it? I don't know, but I don't know, the music doesn't really feel like that vital of a part of the game, to be honest. And then again, the gameplay itself is extremely thin on the ground to begin with. I can't imagine it being that much more fun in a endless survival mode, or a time attack mode, or something or other. I mean, they could have made it a little bit more interesting, like making it like so that you can speed up and slow down at any particular time, and then be like, increase the amount of points you get depending on how fast you're going at any one particular time, or something like that. Just something to make the game more, I don't know, engaging than just trying to dodge around the same bloody patterns over and over again. Something? I don't know. Might as well talk about the price. The game is $5, and you get 3 versions, the PS4, the PS3, and the PS Vita. To be fair, it's fairly appropriate. I personally wouldn't buy it again if I had to, because I did buy this. I bought this when it came out at like 4 o'clock. Then just put my head down for a bit, and then I lifted my head for a bit. It was like 10 minutes later, and the game had finished. I'm like, screw it, might as well play it now. And I woke right the hell up, that's for sure. But yeah, it's just $5 for this isn't exactly tantalizing either way. I mean, if it was $10, I'd feel ripped off, honestly. If it was $15, I'd feel even more ripped off, but $5 at least feels appropriate for what it's doing. I would really like to see more sorts of content in it. Maybe a way to skip levels, maybe more levels. Just something to make the game feel like longer than it actually is. Because I'm just sitting here banging my head against the wall on a 2-minute level. That's probably going to take something like 40, but I'm probably not going to play it again after I put it down after this video, because it's just so simple. It's not really that satisfying just because of the way I've had to bang my head against the wall so much. I mean, Super Hexagon was a bit strange in that regard, because I mean, I played that game to Blade Death, and I never even finished the second level, but this game just doesn't feel anywhere near as satisfying as Super Hexagon. Maybe it's because it's like almost terminally unforgiving. Maybe it's because it's just got a weird shooting mechanic that doesn't really add anything to the game. You just have to hammer that X button home a fair bit. It's just, this game doesn't feel anywhere near as satisfying as other endless runner, super hard, visually dazzling games. I mean, like, this game does look quite nice, and the background effects are pretty nice, but I mean, just that loop constantly coming in the background is more than enough to distract your eyeballs, and it's really, really frustrating. Really frustrating. Just doesn't feel as good. That's all I've got to say about that. So yeah, it's $5, but I wouldn't buy it for that personally. Maybe if it was like $1 and you're a masochist. Yeah, $1 and a masochist sounds about right. I'll give it one more go. See, there's that prompt there. But I just selected no. It's just a precision game that doesn't really feel that fun due to the precision being so difficult. It feels like there's no skill involved. It's just literally memorize these patterns and get your brain to work for longer than 2 minutes. And you've pretty much got this game in the bag. It's also kind of strange that you actually have to finish the practice mode, even though you can't actually finish these levels. Like, you can't actually finish these levels without going into the practice mode. It's not something I'd recommend, but you can do it. Yeah, you can't defeat life, nobody ever did, but I can change you. And you just press yes, and it takes you to training mode for some bloody reason. See? No idea why it takes you to training mode. So yeah, that was a look at Cosmophony. If you've actually been watching this video, you know exactly what I think of it, but I'll summarize again just to be frank. The graphics can get annoying, the sound eventually starts sounding like farts, and the gameplay is just a precision tunnel shooter with the shooting having really no relevance, and it just starts to grind on your nerves over and over again, and it's just, ugh. I can't recommend it, even at the $5 they're selling it for. Maybe if it goes on sale and it's like $1 and you feel like punishing yourself, but other than that, I can't really encourage a purchase of Cosmophony. Could probably come up with a really bad name to, like, you know, play on the pun of phony, but I'm not going to sink to that level. This has been Blue Maxima, and I'll see you all next time.